Let's not sugarcoat it. The British royal family is filthy rich, and not in that how quaint kind of way. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar empire built on the backs of taxpayers, shady deals, and centuries-old privileges that should have been tossed out with powdered wigs. While they parade around in designer clothes and live in palaces that make your average millionaire's mansion look like a shack, the rest of us are footing the bill for their lavish lifestyle. But how exactly do these royals keep their coffers overflowing? Spoiler alert, it's not because of their incredible work ethic or savvy business skills. Please, subscribe to the channel. The Crown Estate, a national treasure or a royal ripoff? Let's start with the Crown Estate, because why wouldn't the royal family have their own personal real estate empire? The Crown Estate is essentially a massive portfolio of land, property, and assets that technically belongs to the Crown, which means the reigning monarch. But don't get it twisted. This isn't some charming countryside cottage we're talking about. The Crown Estate includes prime real estate in London, massive swaths of rural land, and even the UK's seabed rights. In case you were wondering, the Crown Estate rakes in hundreds of millions of pounds each year. But here's the kicker. The royal family doesn't directly pocket this money. Instead, the profits go to the UK Treasury, and in return, the monarch gets a cut in the form of the sovereign grant. This grant is a modest sum of around 25% of the Crown Estate's profits, which in recent years has ballooned to nearly £100 million annually. Let's just pause for a moment. £100 million to fund the Queen's and now the King's lavish lifestyle, while schools are underfunded and hospitals are struggling. How is this not a bigger scandal? Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, the family business. If the Crown Estate isn't enough to get your blood boiling, let's talk about the Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall. These are essentially private estates that have been in the royal family for centuries. The Duchy of Lancaster provides income for the reigning monarch, while the Duchy of Cornwall is reserved for the heir apparent, currently Prince William. These duchies aren't your typical farmsteads. They include prime real estate, commercial properties, and vast agricultural lands. The income generated by these duchies is nothing to sneeze at. We're talking millions of pounds annually that go straight into the pockets of the monarch and the heir. For example, the Duchy of Cornwall pulled in around £23 million last year. And what does Prince William do to earn this money? Oh, that's right, he's a prince. That's his job. Imagine inheriting a business empire just because of your birthright, and then pretending like you're relatable because you occasionally do some charity work or shake a few hands. The sovereign grant, a royal paycheck disguised as public service. Remember that sovereign grant we mentioned earlier? Let's dive a little deeper. This grant is essentially the British taxpayers' direct contribution to the royal family's finances. It's supposed to cover official duties and the upkeep of royal residences, but let's be honest, this is just a fancy way of saying, here's your yearly allowance, Your Majesty. The sovereign grant has been creeping up year after year, thanks to a convenient formula that guarantees the royals a nice little pay bump based on the Crown Estate's profits. So while the average Brit is dealing with rising living costs, the royal family gets a bigger slice of the pie simply because their ancient, inherited properties are doing well. And don't even get us started on the extra funding that was granted for the Buckingham Palace renovations. Over £369 million of public money for a facelift. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just trying to figure out how to afford our next rent payment, private investments, because being royal isn't enough. Now you might think that with all this money coming in from the Crown Estate, the duchies, and the sovereign grant, the royal family would sit back and relax. But no, they've got their fingers in all sorts of private investments too. The Queen, and now King Charles, has a personal investment portfolio that includes everything from stocks to rare art collections. These investments are shrouded in secrecy, of course, because why should the public know where all that money is stashed? There was a little scandal a few years back when the Paradise Papers revealed that the Queen had invested millions in offshore tax havens. That's right. The head of state, who should be setting an example, was caught parking her cash in shady offshore accounts to avoid paying taxes. But did anything really come of it? Not really. A few headlines, some public outrage, and then it was back to business as usual. Taxpayer-funded security, the royal bodyguards you didn't know you were paying for. Let's not forget about the cost of keeping the royal family safe. You'd think with all that money they could afford their own security, but nope, that's on us too. The British public foots the bill for round-the-clock security for the royal family, and this isn't just a few burly bodyguards. We're talking about a full-scale security operation including police protection, armored vehicles, and the occasional no-fly zone over their properties. The exact cost is conveniently kept secret, but estimates put it at around £100 million a year. And that's just for security. Throw in the cost of royal events, international tours, and the occasional jaunt to a private island, and the numbers start to get dizzying. But hey, at least we get to see photos of them waving from balconies, right? Real estate, palaces, castles, and country homes galore. The British royal family doesn't just live in one palace. They have a whole portfolio of residences that would make even the wealthiest real estate mogul jealous. Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, Sandringham, Balmoral, the list goes on. And while some of these properties are owned by the Crown and are technically public property, others are part of the private estates of the royal family. Take Sandringham and Balmoral, for example. These are privately owned by the royals and serve as their little getaways from the hustle and bustle of royal life. When the Queen passed away, these properties were passed down to King Charles, tax-free of course, because why would a billionaire royal need to pay inheritance tax like the rest of us? And let's not forget Kensington Palace, where Prince William and Kate Middleton reside. Their lavish apartment was renovated at a cost of £4.5 million, again funded by taxpayers. But don't worry, the royals made sure to tell us that they personally paid for some of the decor. How generous of them. The royal brand, a license to print money. One of the more insidious ways the royal family makes money is through their brand. The monarchy is a global brand worth billions, and the royals know how to capitalize on it. From commemorative plates and mugs to exclusive partnerships with luxury brands, the royal family turns their name into cash at every opportunity. Royal weddings, births, and even funerals are turned into commercial events, with merchandise flying off the shelves faster than you can say, "Long live the Queen." And while this might seem harmless, after all, no one's forcing you to buy that commemorative tea towel, remember that the royal family gets a cut of all this action. It's just another way they squeeze money out of their subjects while maintaining the facade of being above commercial interests. Playing the victim, the royals' favorite PR move. Perhaps the most infuriating aspect of the royal family's wealth is how they play the victim card whenever it suits them. Whether it's complaining about media intrusion, whining about public scrutiny, or even portraying themselves as hardworking public servants, the royals are experts at manipulating public perception. Take Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, for instance. After stepping back from royal duties, they cried poor, only to sign multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix and Spotify. They moved into a mansion in California and launched a series of lucrative projects, all while insisting they were just trying to live a normal life. But let's be real, there's nothing normal about raking in millions while simultaneously claiming to be victims of the system. At the end of the day, the British royal family is a finely tuned money-making machine. From the Crown estate to the sovereign grant, private investments to taxpayer-funded perks, the royals have built an empire on wealth, privilege, and a carefully crafted image of public service. And while they might try to portray themselves as modern, relatable, and even a bit humble, don't be fooled. Behind the smiles and the waving hands, there's a dynasty that's more interested in preserving its wealth than in any notions of public duty or sacrifice. So the next time you see a royal wedding or hear about a new addition to the royal family, remember this: the spectacle might be fun to watch, but it's coming at a steep price. A price that, whether you like it or not, you're helping to pay.